I like Elon. Like I thought Elon campaigning for Trump was, was big. I like Elon. I don't know a lot about him, but I like him.
Yeah, the only concern is there's a lot of rich people wanted Trump in government. So we'll just see.
That's okay.
We'll just see how it works for the everyday human being.
Of course, Trump lost in New Hampshire, unfortunately.
Of course he did.
But the Republican governor won.
Yep.
How that works out, I have no idea. But he won somehow. But Trump lost.
She won.
Oh, she won. I'm sorry.
Kelly Ayotte. Yep.
Oh, Kelly Ayotte. Yeah, well, she's been around for a while. I mean, she's been around. She's been your governor for a long time, right?
Well, she hasn't been she wasn't our governor previously. It was what's his name? I can't even remember it. It's totally blanking on me right now.
What was Ayotte? She's been in government for a while. What was she?
She was, I think, Senate, I think.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, she wasn't the governor at the time. Yeah, she's taking it over for the guy that is coming off of being like it for the last decade that I've been here.
That's why I'm so shocked that Trump didn't win the state.
I think this was the one state I feel that they got away with something.
Not too big to rig in New Hampshire.
Yeah, unfortunately, this state is very blue, but there was a couple benefactors, let's just say, towards the end of the election that just put their hands into somewhere that who knows what happened. But anyways, I think if you look at the actual map, though, of New Hampshire, there are several counties that turned red versus the whole state being just blue. So,
well, Trump won he won a lot of counties. He won the national election.
Yep. So
he won the popular vote, so nobody can. That's like a resounding, indication of his dominancy in the election that he won the national vote like that. Nobody on the left can take that back from him at all. Why is it saying go live when we already went live?
I don't know.
Oh,
we're live.
It's for Rumble. All right, sir. I'm going to turn it back. I'm going to turn it over for you for Black Hawk Down.
There we go. So, good evening, folks. Welcome to the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. We are live tonight to discuss the 2001 film Black Hawk Down. And this is a fantastic war film if you have not seen it. One of the better ones, I feel, around its time. There's been a lot of great war films over the years. So many different ones. And, this one came out kind of at a pivotal time where there was quite a few war films dropped several times, throughout the kind of the spanning time frame that this film came out. And, so I think that this is one of the ones that I just think really kicked it out of the park. I thought a lot of these films were really great, but this one in particular just was really interesting, simply with the fact that this one, out of all the ones I felt that came out kind of around this time, this one was based on a true story. Majority of war films usually are, but this one actually was kind of telling a tale of something we really hadn't heard much about. So I thought that was really fun about this film. So my first question for you guys is just, with that being said, with there being so many, this coming out around a time when there's so many war films that came out within that time frame there, that 5-6 years there, how do you feel Black Hawk Down compares to those other ones, like Saving Private Ryan, We Were Soldiers, even, if you want to go back to Glory from 89, what do you feel? How do you feel Black Hawk Down ranks within all those films that came out in a really short period there during the early 2000s? And I'll start with you, Jeff.
I don't think I would. I don't think I would try to have this film compete against other war films during that time period, because I don't think that other war films that were being made had the same intangibles that Black Hawk Down did in terms of the desire and the deliverance for almost lockstep reincarnation of the historical events that transpired. You know what I'm saying? The Thin Red Line came out in the 90s, in the late in like the mid to late 90s. There was that cornucopia of war films there towards like the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. We Were Soldiers is a different kind of movie. So it's just, I find myself very uncomfortable stacking this up against those other films. Saving Private Ryan is a different kind of movie. There's a lot of history to that film. Black Hawk Down has history to it, but the way it's shot and the way it delivers on screen, it's very 21st century, in terms of how war is displayed in this film. It's very different from the other movies that we're talking about. Glory, The Thin Red Line, We Were Soldiers. None of them are aligned with that, with that same, for one thing, with that time period, the 90s. That's the farthest we go with any of these movies we're talking about. So no, I would say that this film separates itself from that pack for multiple reasons that we'll discuss throughout the review.
Okay, Mr. Matt, same question, sir.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Jeff, in that it is hard to compare them because they are, a lot of the movies that were made prior to this were historical war films. So I think that this is really the first start of talking about other wars that weren't World War II, Vietnam, that kind of thing. So the thing I stopped short of is I knew that Ridley Scott directed this, but when I was watching this, it felt really like a Tony Scott directed film. It was quite frenetic. There's a lot going on. A lot of the shots are short and sharp. But I went through a phase with Black Hawk Down where it was a movie that I would watch very, very regularly. I just found it to be so visceral, and the story, the guys seem so young and so, I guess, more relatable. These soldiers seem more relatable because this only happened in the not so distant future, past. Whereas with World War II, those 19-year-olds were 19 going on 35, and because it was a different time, so they seemed so mature even though they were young. These guys just seemed like kids. Most of these soldiers that were doing what they were doing. It's a different, like, if World War II was the romantic World War and Vietnam was the sort of the dirty, grimy war, then this one takes it to another level. The people they're fighting against, there's literally no rules anymore. The rules of battle are gone. They were starting to go in Vietnam, and by now they are gone, and it's every man for themselves. But yeah, I'm a bit the same. I still think this is a great war film, and I would rate this really, really highly. If I put Saving Private Ryan at number one, look, I'd say for me this is the top 5 war film as a war film. I really enjoy it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to compare any of these, war films together because each of them have their own kind of niche in what war or what type of war they were dealing with, the storyline, the characters, the actors, everything about that. So I just kind of was trying to get kind of a feeling of how you guys felt about that, if you kind of felt the same way, and I feel the same way as well, that Black Hawk Down definitely is in its own type of niche out of the war films. And, it was interesting how they kind of just bam, 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 put all these war films out within so many, so close in years together. So I think that's kind of interesting that Hollywood decided to do that. So I think this film has that kind of, that special power that it just makes it a really amazing film on its own without being compared to those others. So like I said, this came out in 2001. It was released December 28th, 2001 to a limited release, but then it had a U.S. worldwide release January 18th of 2002. Has a runtime of 144 minutes. It is part of the United States and United Kingdom. The budget on it was $92 million. It ended up bringing in $173 million, so it was a box office success. Now, this movie has a huge cast. I mean, not only is it directed by Ridley Scott, who just came off of all the Oscars, for Gladiator in 2000, he went right from that epic to making this epic. So, I mean, Ridley Scott really had some really great years there in the early 2000s. And, this happened to be like, I feel kind of a big push for a lot of these actors that were in this that were kind of known, but weren't really big at the time, but were kind of becoming big. I think this film kind of pushed them to the forefront of people wanting them in their movies. And, that includes, of course, Josh Hartnett, Eric Bana, Ewan McGregor. Then, of course, we have people that have been around for quite a few years in different things, like Tom Sizemore, William Fichtner, Sam Shepard. And, like I said, this movie has a huge cast. I mean, Orlando Bloom is in it. You had Hugh Dancy in it. Ian Grufford, Tom Dwyer, Jason Isaacs, who we all know as Malfoy's father in the Harry Potter franchise, or you might recognize in The Patriot with Mel Gibson. You might recognize Brian Van Holt, Tom Hardy. I mean, like I said, this movie has a huge ensemble cast, and what amazes me is how, Ridley Scott was able to get all these people into this one film. And, each of them kind of have, some of them definitely have more screen time than others, but all of them get screen time throughout this whole entire film, and which is done really well. So this film, like I said, huge cast, written by Ken Nolan. He did the screenplay for the film. He's an American screenwriter. He basically, this is what he's most known for is writing this film from the nonfiction book of the same name. He actually was a part of Transformers: The Last Knight and the it was kind of a mini series called The Company. It was on TV back in 2007. Michael Keaton was in it. It had a pretty big cast, and it was actually pretty good. But he was a part of that. He also was a part of Transformers: Rise of the Beast, which he did additional literary material. So, I mean, he kind of, Black Hawk Down was kind of his magnum opus, and which brought him into being able to do some other big items down the road. So I think he did a good job with it. So I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on it. What did you think about Ken Nolan's screenplay of the film? Do you think he did a good job? Starting with you, Matt?
Mate, yeah, I think it's quite interesting that you mentioned about how so many young guys coming through, and I feel that what they did with a massive ensemble cast is got us to feel something for almost everyone. So when someone died, you actually felt something for them, even though we might have only seen them for, 6 or 7 minutes. But we felt like we got to know them. And I think it's funny. So I think the screenplay is great. I think that it's obviously, there's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of screaming, but I think it's in the quiet moments. There's a couple quiet moments with Josh Hartnett and Eric Bana before the battle, during the battle, and after the battle, which sort of, I guess, give it that a real passionate and heartfelt feel to it, that you really buy into the plight of these guys. I think it's interesting that you mentioned, as I said just before, that it's this massive cast of these young and up-and-comers, and at the same time, Band of Brothers is being released at the same time, which is doing exactly the same thing. So what you've got is effectively out of these two, and there's some crossover. Tom Hardy's in both Band of Brothers and in this, and so you're finding that some of the biggest actors of our generation have come from these two ensemble casts and have gone on to be absolute superstars. Now, to show how hard it must have been to fit all these characters in, this screenwriter was able to have Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Hulk, Legolas, Venom, Reed Richards, and Will Graham all in the same movie. So they were never going to lose, right? But to have these guys have gone on to be absolute megastars, some of these guys. And I think that's because of that he gave them all enough fat to chew so they could show that, they can do this, that they are good actors and they can do it. So well done.
Excellent. Thank you. Jeff, any thoughts on the screenwriter? What job he did with the film?
Well, I'm reluctant to lend in on the screenwriting just because screenwriting is tough to, disseminate from, an overall picture that you take in. I'm not a Hollywood person, so all I would say is that they obviously did their work before the film was made, during the film, throughout the entire production. They did everything they possibly could have done to hone in on the actual real accountings of what transpired during this operation. And they went out of their way to harness the real life experiences of the actual participants in this battle, in this operation. And the screenwriter was on set for 4 months during the production, so he was rewriting throughout all of that. And they had military experts, and they had people from this battle during the production, during the set, during the sets and everything that were there. I'd have to imagine that all influenced him quite a lot. So yeah, I'd say that that it was really well done, and from my perspective, almost seamless. Probably, I mean, at least for a made for TV movie kind of perspective, almost seamless. From you could see that the effort that was put into making this really like real life.
All right, thank you. Excellent. All right. Great job, folks. Great job, guys. All right. So basically, let's get into the movie. It is 1992. A famine in southern Somalia, induced by the civil war, leads the United Nations Security Council to authorize a military operation with a peacekeeping mandate. Conflict ensues between UNISOM II and Mogadishu-based militia loyal to Mohammed Farah Aidid. In response, U.S. President Clinton deploys Task Force Ranger consisting of 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, Delta Force operators, and flight crew of the 160th soar to Mogadishu to capture Aidid, who has proclaimed himself president. Aidid's militia attacks a Red Cross food distribution shipment and steals the aid, but the Rangers are unable to respond due to the rules of engagement. So we'll stop there. So what do you guys think about kind of this beginning of this story of this, real life incident over in Somalia? What did you think about kind of the introduction to this Mohammed Farah Aidid? What did you think about that? It's funny to think that this was only 32 years ago this happened. And, kind of your overall thoughts on that beginning, how the action was, how the story went along, and how accurate you felt it seemed, and kind of your overall thoughts, just, kind of that portion of the film. And I'll start with you, Matt.
Yeah, it's a good start. I think it introduces us to all the main players on both sides of the fence. I think we get an idea about what's going on, the abject poverty that the people of Mogadishu are being subjected to, and how it must have just been horrific. It really must have been. But then on the flip side, we've got Team America, World Police, coming to the aid, and But then we get slowly but surely we get introduced to all the main players, and we get just enough of them so that we buy into why they're doing what they do. And I think that it's a really important part of the movie just to set up, just so we get enough of the Americans so that we care for them and we understand that they're doing this for the right reasons. It's funny that we've always got, in every freaking war movie, we've always got the clown that mocks the commanding officer, and he always gets caught out. Same thing happens in Band of Brothers as well, where there's the guy who takes off all the commanding officers, and I think there's a little bit of tropiness and a little bit of like bog standard screenwriting where we just need to open the crack to every character. But I think it's done really well, and I think that we actually get a feeling. The thing I like about this is that we actually see some fear. Like there's some fear being built into them as well. So Josh Hartnett gets given a new role, and he doesn't know whether he can do it. Ewan McGregor, finally all he wants to do is fight, but then as soon as he gets told he gets to fight, he shits himself. Like everyone there's that little bit of fear, which I like to see because that's realistic. I can't imagine that every soldier goes into battle gung-ho and thinking this is the greatest thing ever. There's got to be some fear there. And I think we get to see that. I think it's a really good opening. And there's not much to it. It's like 10 minutes and then we're sort of into it where they're flying overhead. And so they capture enough that they need to get us to buy in.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree. It definitely is a good, solid opening that really gets you into this story, this based on true story. It gives you kind of an idea of kind of what they're dealing with, kind of gives you an idea of, kind of giving you a realistic approach to what it's like for these, soldiers, and kind of give you an idea that it's not just all fun and games. And that's kind of one thing about a lot of these, war films I felt during this time. They really try to make them as realistic as possible to try to give you an idea of what these soldiers go through and what they do to save our country. And I think that is a really great, testament to show and give people an idea of what these soldiers, what they, give at cost to keep our freedoms. And I think this film does a really good job of showing us that type of deal. All right, Jeff, what's your thoughts on that beginning intro, sir?
It's a really well done reintroduction, or first introduction for most people into the actual conflict itself. And I don't think that most people nowadays, especially in 2024, are going to right off the bat remember Mogadishu. And I barely do. I barely remember the news in the 90s of these incidents, of what went on during this time period. This was when Bill Clinton was president. So I do remember it, but it was very much something that wasn't like a big, it wasn't first top of the news kind of thing. It was sort of in the background of the news, set back then. And I think that they do a really good job in the film to lend off of Matthew of humanizing and being very, what I assume is accurate and authentic in representing what your typical layout would be, with all these different branches, all these hyper top-notch outfits from the military, the U.S. military, being thrown into the same operation together, right? You've got the Green Berets, you've got all these different elite factions of the military that are all kind of tied together, and they do a really good job, Ridley Scott does, of setting up the action of the film with just some really humanizing and really both funny and like very real scenes that just establish and set up the characters initially, the mentality of the military over there, sort of their mindset, their headspace of what's going on there, what they're there for, how they're doing there, kind of gives you a feel of what was going down there, in real life. And I think that Eric Bana really stands out to me in the introduction. He really stands out as somebody that really his role I really enjoyed in the film, and he stands out a lot in the introductory part of the film. Obviously, Josh Hartnett does too. He's really good. Say what you want about Josh Hartnett, but he's really good right off the bat. He portrays his character very well, I think. Very young guy at that time, coming off of another war movie before he made this one. So, one that wasn't very good, unfortunately, compared to this one. From what I remember anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much it. They kind of gloss over the Somali side of it to some extent, but that's just because there's really no tangible point of reference for them to go to for the Somali side of this engagement, right? Like you can't go to Somalia. Somalia is still a war-torn, place to this day that you can't just go to and be like, hey, can we talk to the guys that were in the fucking military during the Black Hawk Down shit or whatever so we can talk to them? That you can't do that. So I thought that in the little bit that they showed, they do a pretty decent job of giving you an enemy to work with. So if there is an enemy, kind of, right? Because the U.S. is always on the side of good in all military movies. The U.S. is always the good side of the. You find that out very quickly that we're on the good side of every altercation that there is.
Yeah, Team America.
That's right. Exactly. Team America, 100%. And so we are always we are there to do good in every situation, no matter what. It doesn't matter what's happening. Like, that's what's happening.
All right. Thank you, sir. Excellent. And as always, America, fuck yeah. Anyways, the great movie. If you have not seen Team America World Police People, check it out. Made by the guys that did South Park. Fantastic film.
I think our military members are really good people. You know what I'm saying? When they get sent to other places to do shit or whatever, I believe they're probably over there trying to do their best to do good things for the world. But the people who actually send them to places, sometimes, some of that shit can be a little bit messy.
Yeah. You mean different agendas? Nah.
Yeah, but the soldiers themselves, I think they go where they're told to go, and I think that they're good people.
Most certainly. All right. So moving on in the film. So outside Mogadishu, Rangers and Delta Force capture Osman Ali Atto, a faction leader selling arms to Adid's militia. The U.S. plans a mission to capture Omar Salid Almi and Abdai Hassan Awel Kurbida, two of Adid's advisors.
Sorry, Cyber, but I'm so glad that you're doing this and not me. You're killing it. You are killing it.
Who named these people?
Their parents, apparently. Or they gave themselves these names. I don't know. But anyway, so prior to the mission, Staff Sergeant Matthew Eversman receives his first command of Ranger Chalk 4 after his lieutenant has a seizure. Members of his chalk include a fresh 18-year-old private first class, Todd Blackburn, and specialist John Grimes, a former desk clerk. So we'll stop there because that kind of gives you a little bit more introduction to Ewan McGregor's character, into Josh Hartnett's character, into Orlando Bloom's character a little bit there. And I mean, you get kind of a interesting insight kind of into the Somalia aspect at this point. So starting with you, Jeff, what did you think about that section, the introduction to them getting started with the mission, and kind of the overall thoughts on the actual Somali side of this portion of the film?
I don't have really much to say. I don't think other than again, I already kind of got into it that it introduces the key, some of the key characters that we then dive into deeply during the actual operation itself. Besides that, you don't get. I mean, the scene with the warlord or whatever that gets brought in is like a minute long. And then you see him for like half a second in another scene later on, but that's about it. So like there isn't much really shown with him. We'll talk more about the actual operation itself when they go into Mogadishu and they actually go into the actual the war zone itself, I guess if you want to call it. But Legolas was great. I mean, he's so young in this, pre-Lord of the Rings, which is crazy because Lord of the Rings is already old as fuck. The ensemble cast really pokes right out in these beginning sequences. You can't help but notice that they just have this massive ensemble male cast that they just have everybody in there pretty much, and a lot of names that are still very, very much on the radar now are in this film. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. I mean, Lord of the Rings actually came out the same year, 2001. So Legolas was big, and I think that's kind of what probably catapulted him in this film too as well. People were like, "I love Legolas. I want more Legolas." And they're like, "Oh, Orlando Bloom's in this film. We should check him out in this film." But yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, they definitely were younger, and I think majority of them they were like early 20s. Orlando Bloom was born in 1977, so he would have been 24 when this came out, probably 23 when he filmed this. And then Josh Hartnett, of course, was like 21, 22, something like that. And I mean, a lot of these guys, they were all like, mid 20s. Some of them were in their 30s. But yeah, I definitely agree that this young cast all was, a big, amazing just crowd of these great up and coming actors that all of them have proven that they're very versatile actors and can do many different genres. All of them are really good in this film, and I think that this section really kind of gives you a good idea of what you're going to get into for their acting as it goes down the road. I love the scene there with Jason Isaacs, and he has to deal with the clown guy, and he kind of like, "Oh, something's funny, huh? Yeah, that was a pretty good impression, huh? Yeah. May I talk to you for a second?" And he's like, "If you ever do that again, I'll make you lick the latrine with your tongue." And listening to Jason Isaacs have a normal, like American accent was super great. I thought he did a great job giving kind of that Southern kind of drawl type to it, even though he's English. So I thought he did a really good job with that too. And then like even Orlando Bloom, I was really shocked at how well he did with, doing like an American accent versus his English accent. So I thought they all did a really good job. If they're English, they did a good American accent. All right, Mr. Matt, same question, sir.
Yeah, I think it's we're just really bedding down the important players, and I particularly like the stuff with Ewan McGregor. I particularly like, obviously, Eric Bana being an Aussie is great, and I think that he obviously plays. He's going through a run here, Eric Bana, and he becomes one of the bigger actors on the global stage for a little while there. But look, I think that it's a bit calm before the storm, and I think what we're doing, we're being introduced to an understanding of the relationship and the commitment that these guys have to each other. And then when we do know when they're about to go into what can only be described as hell and the worst place on earth, and that they're going to have each other's backs and they'll do whatever it takes to survive. And as we go further on in the movie, there's a going way forward towards the end of the movie where one of the guys goes, no one gets out alive. We don't leave anyone behind. And either they then give an order, which is, we all know what's going to happen when he says no one gets left behind, and that's just the lengths that they will go to. And I just think that this is all prepping this. I think it's really methodical. It's well paced, and I think we introduced we as what Jeff says, that you're right. The whenever Team America are involved, they're always on the side of good, and this is. you know, they really portray the militia as being the absolute worst of the worst. And I think that we can't wait for them to go in and try and for what seems to be such an innocuous mission to extract someone out of somewhere to get information, to put all these people at risk just for this very, you know, it's what seems like innocuous mission is about to go south pretty freaking quickly.
Agreed. Excellent job, sir. Yeah, very much so. I think that, you know, we really get a good kind of start into the film here, giving us a great charge on, you know, what we're getting into as the film goes forward. All right, so continuing with the story. So Delta Force operators capture Adid's advisors inside the target building while the Rangers and helicopters escorting the ground convoy take heavy fire from the rallying militia. Blackburn is severely injured when he falls from one of the Black Hawk helicopters. So 3 Humvees led by Staff Sergeant Jeff Strucker are detached from the convoy to return Blackburn to UN-held Mogadishu Airport. Grimes is separated from Eversman's Chalk after surviving an RPG explosion. Just after Strucker's column departs, Black Hawk Super 6-1, piloted by Chief Warrant Officer Clifton Elvis Walcott, is shot down by a rocket-propelled grenade. Walcott and his co-pilot are killed. 2 crew chiefs are wounded, and 2 Delta Force snipers on board escape in a MH-6 Little Bird helicopter. All right, so we'll stop there. Lots of action going on in that section there. What are you guys' thoughts on that section? Starting with you, Matt.
Well, we get the key statement for the whole movie in this section. You know, we've got a Black Hawk down, we've got a Black Hawk down. And I do love when it is done well that the title of the movie is worked somehow into the script. And this is done well. So it starts off so, it seems so simple. They get in easy. The Delta Force get the guy. They're getting him into the convoy. And then about 4 minutes later, all hell breaks loose. And obviously then Ari Gold, who should have stuck to representing actors rather than flying helicopters, gets shot down. And then that's when it really starts to go south very quickly. And it's amazing how fast it ramps up. And I think it's here where we see them handing guns out to the militia and just how many people there are, and they're they're effectively all coming out of the walls just to join the fight. And it reminds me very similar to the Vietnam War, where you can't beat people like this. You can't. They are willing to die en masse for their cause and for what they're doing. And it's quite obvious the amount of people are just pouring out of everywhere to be involved. And it blows me away how anyone survives a battle like this. And as they're driving down those narrow streets and there's people on the roofs with RPGs and machine guns, and it's incredible that how anyone survives this. And it's, what Ridley Scott does is he just keeps ratcheting it up. Like it's just there's a little bit of a lull, then it's full on, and then it's a little bit of a lull when the guys get separated and they're on their own, and there's some quiet while the battle's going on in another part of town. And I think that but seeing that Black Hawk get shot down is a very, very frightening thing, because that's their superiority. They've got air superiority. That shouldn't be an issue, and the minute that happens, it all gets flipped on their head.
Most certainly. Great job, sir. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the helicopters, the planes, you know, whatever situation the military are in, and those machines are what they rely on to get the people in and out safely. And so when one of those gets blown up or taken down, it's like all hell breaks loose. So that's a very good point. All right, Jeff, any thoughts on that section, sir?
Well, I think that the dominance of the U.S. military also lends to that effect where, having a fuck up go down, a chopper go down or something like that, seems sort of surreal or like surprising, because you're talking about, again, in this situation, you're talking about elite force units of the U.S. military that get special training, and are above and beyond, not just regular Marines, not just regular Army, but Green Berets, elite, top, the top of the top, practically Navy SEAL type motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not used to failure, right? They do a really good job of portraying that throughout the mission. I think right off the bat, that their superiority over the enemy in this is stark. Look at how lackluster and like loose the fighting force is for the Somalis. They're well armed, and whatnot, but they're compared to the U.S. military and their layout, they have a very basic way of communicating. They use the cell phone to alert the war chief that the helicopters are coming. And these are like old school cell phones from back in the day, like those big ones. Like the big ass cell phones they used to have. Those things were big, man. They were heavy. They had some pretty decent cell phones for back then in this movie, surprisingly. But so I love the authenticity that all the actors had to bring to the table, based off of the fact that they put them through actual boot camps with the Green Berets, and with the military. They separated the two groups into two different boot camps, and the government worked really, and the military really worked hand to hand with Ridley Scott and Bruckheimer on this film. And I think that's really cool that the military was willing to be that engaged. They sent them off for orientation and for training, and from what I understand it, that really did a lot for the actors in terms of their desire to deliver on screen a real portrayal of what went down in this operation. It's very scary. When they released those ropes from those helicopters, I could ascend and descend a rope. To this day, I still could if I had to. I could ascend and descend a rope. But when you're in a hot zone like that and you're under fire and shit like that, anything can happen at any moment. And just imagining actually falling out of one of those helicopters on your back, and missing that rope is scary. To be honest with you, it's kind of scary because you're going to probably survive. You know what I mean? But you're going to be fucked up. You're not going to be doing so hot. That's a big drop. I just remember having almost a little bit of fear in that scene, just because I'm existentially, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I can't even imagine what that must be like, because there was no way for Blackburn to do anything about it. You know what I'm saying? And he was being shot at. The copter was getting shot at. It wasn't his fault that he fell, but I think that moment really just again humanizes the film a lot. That there is a lot of loss going on here. The military loses 18 people in this operation. That's a lot. Obviously they took out a lot more Somalis than that, but again, Team America. So it means more when the U.S. people die.
Yep. America, fuck yeah.
Coming in to save the motherfucking day, yeah.
America, fuck yeah.
That was really good, Matt.
All right, folks. Yeah, once again, go watch Team America World Police. All right.
My balls and lick my butt, yeah.
America. Excellent. Good job, sir. He gets the golden crown tonight, folks. Golden crown for
the golden corral.
Yep. All right. Great job, guys. Very good job. Great talk, great information. Very, very well educated people here, folks. and they have a really good grasp on I feel that section of the film. All right, so moving on from there, after the Black Hawk has gone down, the ground forces are rerouted to converge on the crash site. The militia erects roadblocks, preventing Lieutenant Colonel Danny McKnight's Humvee column from reaching the area, and inflicts heavy casualties. Meanwhile, 2 Rangers Chalks, included Eversman's unit, reach the crash site and set up the defensive perimeter, while another helicopter, Super 6-4, piloted by Chief Warrant Officer Michael Durant, is also shot down by a rocket-propelled grenade and crashes several blocks away. With the primary Ranger forces led by Captain Mike Steele pinned down and sustaining heavy casualties, no ground forces can reach Super 6-4 or reinforce the Rangers defending Super 6-1. 2 Delta Force snipers, Sergeant First Class Randy Shugart and Master Sergeant Gary Gordon, volunteered to be inserted by helicopters to secure Super 6-4's crash site. When they find Durant still alive, despite their heroic actions, the site is overrun. Gordon and Shugart are killed, and Durant is captured. All right, so we'll stop there. So what are you guys' thoughts on this section? Basically, kind of the recon to try to go save the Black Hawk down, and kind of what ends up unfortunately happening with the heavy casualties, and kind of what happens with the other teams trying to go in to fix this. And then we end up getting a person captured. What are your thoughts kind of on that section and kind of what happens there? Starting with you, Jeff.
Well, it's very entertaining. This is the pure entertainment sort of part of the film, right? That's where we're at. So it's very entertaining. It's just the display of the urban warfare. I love Sizemore's character throughout these scenes. He's just he's been in so many war movies at this point. Bless his soul, Tom Sizemore. He really he is the war movie guy. He at this point alone, he'd been in like 3 major war films. So he's just like seamless when you see him in one of these films. And his character is always the same. He always gets shot and doesn't care. He just reaches out and touches it or whatever. Whenever he gets shot, just touches it or whatever, and then just goes on about his business. It's always the same shit with him, and it's really good in this movie. It's really enjoyable. It's really a reflection of the training that these soldiers go through, that the actors go through, and the diligence of the director and the producers, that they're able to depict this section of the film so well and portray it so well on screen that it really looks, it's top notch urban warfare setting. It's really top notch. It's very very grand to watch on scene. The sound of it, is great. The soundtrack itself for this movie is pretty solid. I think it's pretty enjoyable. But the sounds of the warfare, are really well done. Everything sounds really crisp and really, really vibrant and really, really real, really, really real life. And the actors really pull through at this point in the film. They really do a great job of displaying the toll it takes, probably, I'd imagine, of something like this, a skirmish like this, an operation like this that goes on for this long under enemy lines, right, under duress. But yet having that motto of never leaving anybody behind, alive or dead. So they have to, bring their dead out of there. There's no way around that. It has to happen, right? It's going to happen no matter what. No matter what has to happen, they're gonna get those pilots out of those choppers. That's going to happen. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Mr. Matt, your thoughts, sir, on that section?
I think just when you think it's bad, it just gets a hell of a lot worse. The thing that is pardon me, the thing that probably the most striking part for me is that the 2 snipers that beg to go in to be dropped at the site to protect Durant, and knowing that they're probably going to die. And that scene where you know, they are running out of bullets, and he runs back and gives a gun to Durant, and then runs back with a handgun left, effectively to hold back hundreds of this crowd charging at them, is brutal. And it's just, you just think, how do these guys do this? Like, how do you look death in the eye and go, I'm not important anymore, I'm going to make sure he's okay? And I think that it's why I could never be a soldier, I don't think, you know, and it's one of these situations where you don't know how you react until you put into it. But that, out of this whole part of that movie, and there's some sad parts in this movie, but that bit where those two snipers decide that they're going to go down and they're going to sacrifice themselves for one guy is just, it's heartbreaking. And then seeing what they do to those guys, and if you read further into the story and actually cut a substantial amount out of the movie, what they did to those bodies, how they paraded those bodies around the streets, and it was just like, you are dealing with the worst of the worst. And yeah, so I think that's what I take away from that part. It's at a point where you've got the. I also find, geez, it must be really difficult because you've got three. Obviously, the poor guys on the ground never get to talk to the decision maker, right? So you've got Sam Shepard at the base, then you got the guys in the helo above, and then you got the guys on the ground, and none of them really know what's going on apart from the guys on the ground. And all you're saying as a viewer is just send more fucking people in to help these guys, and they never do. And it's just like you're on your own, and it's such a trope in all war movies, but it really happens, and that's frightening. So, a great part, and probably the most emotional part of the film, I think, is this part of the movie. The next, obviously, when the young kid dies, but this is, for me, it's the part of the movie that's really got the most heart to it.
Excellent. Thank you. And just kind of a little FYI for those out there, Mr. Durant, who is the pilot of the other Blackhawk that goes down, that the gentleman that Mr. Matt was just talking about go to try to save, he actually is a huge, he has become a huge Republican over the years, which I found kind of interesting. I was just reading a little bit about him. He actually ran for Alabama Republican Party seat in 2022 after his military days, and I think that's kind of interesting that he I didn't recognize the guy's character's name from this, because I remember seeing him in the news a few years ago. So yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. Navy guy and or Army guy, and he seems like a very interesting individual. He actually ended up hurting his lower vertebrae when he got injured in that that helicopter crash, and ended up healing up quite fine, and continuing with his military career till 2001. So that was kind of interesting. All right, Mr. Jeff, any thoughts, sir, on that section?
The one we just went over.
Yes. I just want to make sure that I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure I got you. All right. I thought I did, but I just wanted to verify. All right. Excellent job, guys. Excellent job. All right. So, after that, all right. Let's see here. Okay, so jet down, yep. Okay. All right, so moving on from there, that's when we get to when Mike Steele comes into the picture. And, well, actually, no, we're a little past that. Sorry, guys. I did read that already. That's what I thought. All right, so McKnight's column relinquishes their attempt to reach 6-1's crash site and returns to base with the prisoners and their casualties. The men prepare to go back to extract the Rangers and fallen pilots, and Major General Garrison asks for reinforcements for the 10th Mountain Division, including Malaysian and Pakistani armored units from the UN coalition. As night falls, Adid's militia launches a sustained assault on the trapped Americans at Super 6-1's crash site. The militants are held off throughout the night by strapping runs and rocket attacks from HH-6J Little Bird helicopter gunships until the 10th Mountain Division's relief column is able to reach the American soldiers. The wounded and casualties are evacuated in the vehicles, but a few Rangers and a Delta Force soldiers are forced to run on foot from the crash site to reach the safe zone at Mogadishu Stadium. So we'll stop there before we get into the epilogue there. So what do you guys kind of think of the finale of the film, the rescue of them, the aid of the other military factions, and kind of your overall thoughts on that kind of final outing and battle there that they had to deal with? Starting with you, Jeff.
Well, I mean, it's a lot. A lot occurs throughout the whole operation and through the final legs of it. It's a lot to take in, and it's a lot that they delivered on screen. You sort of, I think it is an overarching thing that you expect the U.S. to win in these predicaments, right? Even if this is a historical accounting of something that's already happened, you're still watching a movie when you watch this. So, you're still living it in real time, and based off of the movie itself, you get the feeling that the U.S. is going to win in this outcome. That's sort of the vibe you get, and watching them go through that, losing people. They have the one soldier that's been hurt, right? That's been shot or whatever, that they're trying to keep him alive, right? Throughout this, that's pretty deep. It's always deep when you have that stuff going on. Watching them survive throughout the night, with the copters, with the armed helicopters coming back to strafe and pound down on the city throughout the night, to kind of take the pressure off of them, is really interesting. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good part of the movie that's really entertaining, and just shows the resiliency of the soldiers. That they just keep on going. They fight till they run out of ammo, essentially, right? And you're right there with them. And you watch a lot of people that you start the movie off with, you watch them die, unfortunately, and you feel the losses. It definitely, there's definitely a reality, a real life tone to the death in this movie. There's a lot of scenes that display the Somalian people, living through this war zone and trying to give off, an impression to the audience of what it would be like to just be trying to raise children and things like that, and live in a war zone like that. And it's very real. It's very heartbreaking to watch. It's deep. You feel bad for the people. They're suffering. They're hungry. I mean, starving people is the worst way to kill people out there, ever. That's the worst shit ever. When you starve people to death, that's the worst. You can't really do any worse than starving people. That's bad. That's fucking horrible, man. No wonder Team America had to go over there and do some shit. You know what I'm saying? I would hope Team America would go fucking do something if people are being starved. Seriously, that's what we're about. But watching them being, again, trying to imagine being in one of those Humvees, right? On the Humvee detail, and all the fire that they're taking throughout on the streets, right? It's crazy. The guys with the M50s that are shooting those 50 caliber machine guns on the streets. What's his name? DJ Squalls or DJ Quall or whatever the fuck his name is or whatever goes deaf. The one guy, whatever his name is, the European actor.
Oh, Ewan Bremer. Ewan Bremer is his name.
not you, McGregor. The other guy.
No, the guy that's from Train Spotting that shits the bed.
Yeah, the train spotting guy. He goes deaf. He can't hear from the sound, from the actual sound of the 50 cal around him. Those 50 cals are sick, man. Like, seriously, those bullets are so big. It's insane thinking about taking a shell from one of those guns, man. Like, holy fuck. You're lucky if you survive taking a shot from one of those 50 cal machine guns. The bullets that they shoot out of those things are bigger than my finger. Although I don't have big fingers either. Big penis, small fingers. How about that?
You're bucking the trend.
You mean like this? You mean like this?
Yes. Yeah. Eric Bana holds it down throughout the whole movie. He's really good in the end, and he's really good in the beginning. So is Josh Hartnett. Very entertaining. Great acting on all fronts. Hugh McGregor was good in the film too. He was really good. I enjoyed him. He kind of falls off there at the end, but he makes his coffee and all that shit. He adds a little something to it. I like Jason Isaacs in the movie as the lieutenant of the Rangers or whatever. He's good. It's in Cyber.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Matt, your thoughts, sir, kind of on that conclusion of the film?
Yeah, obviously we have the heartbreaking scene where they're trying to rescue the kid and seeing just how brutal. And again, you look at how young these guys are, and they're trying to operate, and they've got their hands in a guy's leg, and it's just full on. And so it's building to this crescendo where they know that they're gonna have to fight back, and then when the Somalians or the militia start to attack at night, and it's game on, and they just think, well, we've got to go. Like, there's no other thing we can do. And I just think it's Ridley Scott's done such a good job of building to here. But again, and it's funny, Jeff, you talk about the plight of the locals and how bad it is, and the starvation and that. I don't know if you guys remember, but when the guy who is the kid who is the one who's being operated on, who's bleeding out, he falls into that door, and he falls into the hut or the house where the wife is, or the mother is, with like 5 kids. And that woman is like a 25 out of 10 African model. She's so unbelievably gorgeous. And it just sort of took me out of the movie for a little bit, where I'm like, you fall into the one house and the woman is absolutely stunning. She looks like she's just gotten up and done 5 hours of beauty routine. She looks amazing. I'm like, make it, Ridley. I know your casting director's probably going, she looks good, I'm going to bring her in, she's amazing. But it could have been a little bit more realistic and had like someone that might have been living in that area, not someone straight off the catwalk from Paris. But that was the only thing. But obviously then they have to bust out, and then they've got to run out, and that's where my fear of running hits. And I'm like, oh my God, just when you think it's bad, they're going to have to run out of this joint. And I don't know how any of them survive that. And it's frightening that it's one of these things where real life is always worse than the movie. So that looked really, really bad in the movie. I can't imagine how bad it was in real life to have to run through those streets and run back, sure, under the protection of some Humvees and of some, but at the end there, they got to run that 3 kilometers or whatever on their own with no support. And it just, you've had possibly the worst day of your life, and you've got to run another 3Ks to get to safety. Fuck that. You can have that. I'd be almost ready to wave the white flag and go, you've got me. I'm done now. So it's a great ending. And then obviously it's the quiet. And I guess it's the quiet moments in war, which are sometimes the scary times. Well, I guess they're trained to react, and they're trained to, it's all instinct. And so then when they get back and they actually start looking at each other going, fuck, what have we just been through? That must be obviously one of the greatest moments of someone's life, but also one of the scariest moments of someone's life as well, when you're alone with your thoughts, when there's no need for the reactions anymore. So well done, Ridley. Good ending. Really powerful.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a very solid ending. I mean, this whole movie, through the whole entire film, there's a lot of emotions going on. There's a lot of ups and downs. And, you know, with the kid sequence, that got by far the most heartbreaking scene in this whole entire film. But it showed reality of what it was like, you know, for those soldiers over there in 93, and kind of just war in general, just any war that any person has been in, you know, kind of what they had to deal with, you know. And at certain times, you know, think about it, back, you know, during World War I or II, they had a lot less, you know, types of, you know, guns or machines that we had, you know, in 93. So I mean, things were a lot worse back then. So I mean, this really gives you kind of an idea of that. And I think they, you know, really did a great job of giving us as most accurate as he could, and getting these actors the information they needed to portray that very well. So I agree with that very much so. So basically, then we have a epilogue, which a text epilogue reveals that Durant was released following 11 days of captivity. Gordon and Shugart became the first soldiers to receive the Medal of Honor posthumously since the Vietnam War. And General Garrison took full responsibility for the mission's outcome, retiring the day after Adid was killed in August 1996. So basically, it fades out, giving us that little bit of information. And we, you know, basically, you know, it's great that Durant was released and he ended up living and all that good stuff. You know, unfortunately, you know, the loss of Gordon and Shugart was horrible, but it was awesome that they gave them the Medals of Honor. And that they were the first ones since the Vietnam War. And then, of course, you know, Garrison taking full responsibility. That was a very interesting thing. And then him retiring the day that Adid was killed. So what are you guys' thoughts kind of on that epilogue? What did you think about that? What did you think about the Medal of Honors given to those soldiers? What did you think about Garrison taking full responsibility and then retiring the day after they finally kill Adid? What are your guys' thoughts on that epilogue? Starting with you, Matt.
Well, I guess it's just a case of job done. I'm out. And I think that it must be a huge weight to bear for anyone that has to send people to their death. And he could not have dreamed how this mission would have panned out. And just to see the names of the people that died, and to, you know, it was again very powerful. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, when they have a text epilogue and it sort of lets everyone, wraps up the movie very quickly. But I think they did that really quite emotionally and quite well. That, you know, and you know, more power to him. He's obviously took responsibility. He's the guy sitting in the safety of the base, but he's the one giving the orders and sending these kids to their death. And whilst it's part of the job, right, they sign up for that, and that's what he's going to do. But I think it was job done for him. The mission's sealed. He's dead. I'm out. I can't do this anymore. And it must be just the most difficult of jobs to do. I think twice about letting my kids go trick-or-treating, let alone sending them into the MOG in a war zone and go to battle. So it's, yeah, again, sometimes it doesn't work, but this time I think it did work with that sort of epilogue. So well done.
Excellent. Thank you. Jeff, your thoughts on the epilogue?
Pretty much just that the heroes of the conflict are real heroes. The actors met several of them, and several of them survived, and they're really great people. You know, I mean, they're, from what the actors say, they're some of the most well-rounded, friendly, outgoing, well-read, you know, intelligent, you know, non-macho kind of guys that you could ever meet. So, you know, hats off to them. You know, that I think that the cast does a really good job of portraying what I would imagine, because you don't really know, but what I would imagine would be a very authentic representation of what these soldiers were like and what this conflict was really like. And that representation by Ridley Scott in a war film like this deserves to be heralded. This definitely is probably in its own you know, category, as a film. I think I don't really know what else I would hold it against. It's a really top-notch war film, and you know, as far as the epilogue itself and what ended up happening with the whole situation over there in Africa and all that, that's you know, whatever, I guess. But it's all interesting. The whole movie itself is very interesting. It definitely makes you think a lot on your feet, which is always fun. And the authenticity of overall of the delivery of the whole thing from start to finish is just top notch. Ridley Scott is like on his own level, I think.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think the epilogue for myself is I love when they give those because they give you information that they might not have covered at the very end of the film, and giving us kind of the thought process of yes, so Durant survived, and the Garrison took responsibility and stuff like that. So I always enjoy when they do the epilogues. They always work very well, and give us really good information that usually it's a happy ending majority of the time. Sometimes it's not, but in this case, at least we got some great honors for these fallen soldiers and stuff like that. So I thought that the epilogue was done really well in this film. All right, so any final thoughts from either on the film itself?
No, I don't have anything.
Matt?
I think it's a movie that should be watched. I think it's a movie that probably doesn't get the kudos it deserves. It definitely doesn't get spoken in the same tones as Platoon or Saving Private Ryan, but this is a very, very good war movie, a modern war movie. And I think that you could do a hell of a lot worse than spending 2 hours and 20 minutes watching Black Hawk Down, if for nothing else, to relive a little bit of history and find out, what happened real. Yeah, well done, Ridley. I just hope he doesn't make another Alien movie. Which he says he's going to do. So anyway, that's another discussion.
He's like, I hated the last couple of Alien films. Anyways, that's why he didn't do Romulus, I think, probably. That's why they had Fidel Eberez take over. Yeah. Anyways, all right, excellent. Thank you, sir. All right, so going around, let's give ratings. Jeff, what would you give the film?
Oh, it's a big 10 out of 10, sir.
Excellent. Wow, 10 out of 10, folks. Those are very rare from the Jeff. Very rare. So cherish it. Cherish the 10 out of 10. And always go, America, fuck yeah.
It's a 10 out of 10 for what it is.
Excellent. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm going to go with Jeff. I'm going to agree with Jeff for this. I had forgotten. This was a huge movie for me. I watched this a lot, and I'm going to give it a 10. I loved it. I really enjoyed watching it again. I'd caught it before you guys sent through we were going to do this. I'd caught about half of it just randomly, and then went back and watched it all again and really enjoyed it. This is a good 10. This is a 10 movie.
How are you catching this, just off cuff, how are you catching this randomly?
Well, it was on cable. So I flicking through and it was on a channel and I was like, oh, haven't seen Black Hawk Down for a bit. So I watched about 45 minutes of it. And then I had to go out and I was spewing that I couldn't finish it. And then when you guys sent through this, I go, okay, yeah, I'm going to watch that. So I just watched it again.
Yeah. I don't watch my cable that much.
Do you not get random stuff that you'll pop up and just watch bits of?
Occasionally here and there. I mean, I have I have cable. I have like YouTube TV or whatever,
Yeah.
So I do have television, but I'm pretty I lived through. I cut the cord, cut the cable a long time ago, and I've been on a Roku for a long time, and I'm just used to streaming everything all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If I'm not watching YouTube, I'm streaming something on Max or on Hulu, or I watch Hulu a lot. I like anime. I like anime. Hulu has a lot of anime.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've got an IPTV service, which I'm sure YouTube won't shut me down for saying that, and it's been very good. So it's got like 12,000 channels all around the world, and
Damn.
there's a channel there which is 24/7 movies, and it's got all these different franchises, Aliens, Batman, Jaws, Mission Impossible, and it's just, I click on that when I sort of about to go to bed. I'll click on that, and it'll be randomly playing a movie in that franchise or whatever it is. So I've been doing that quite a bit lately, which is how I sort of just catch snippets of films as well. So, but I stream most of my stuff now anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, me too. I watch a lot of. I'm pretty limited. I watch a lot of Comedy Central, and I watch a Cartoon Network for Adult Swim. I watch a lot of the Adult Swim stuff at night on Cartoon Network. I like animated series.
Yep.
All right.
Nice.
Excellent, guys. So 10, and then I'm going to give it a giant 10 as well. This is one of my favorite war films. Pretty much a majority of the war films that came out this time for me were 10 out of 10s. I loved all of them individually. I thought all of them were fantastic. But yeah, Black Hawk Down for me is definitely 10 out of 10. It's just for the cast alone. And then I thought Ridley Scott just did a really fantastic job directing it. Coming off of his, Oscar-worthy Gladiator. I mean, I thought he once again proved that he's a very fantastic director and that he deserved that Oscar for Gladiator. So I think he did a great job. He gave us very realistic military story that, it's a very sad story. And at the same time, it's an interesting take on history that really shows us, how crazy warfare is and, what these men sacrifice for, our country and for other people and stuff like that. So hands down, they do a great job here honoring those soldiers that fell during this, skirmish in 93 and just did a really great job. So I have to give it a 10 out of 10. So fantastic job, guys. Excellent. So that is it for Black Hawk Down, folks. That is the review. Really fantastic film. If you have not seen it, we highly recommend check it out. It's actually streaming on Peacock right now. If you get a chance to watch it. If you want to watch it, it is streaming, which it was kind of funny. It just popped up on Peacock yesterday because the day before it was not on there. So it just started streaming on Peacock. If you want to check it out, definitely worth a watch. You can also rent it or buy the digital. Really great film. Definitely check it out, people. It's worth a watch. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Jeff, and he will take us out.
All right, Matthew. What's going on over at Born to Watch, sir?
Plenty going on. We did our Halloween movie for Misery, which was amazing. Had a lot of fun with that. We've got quite a big 5 or 6 weeks coming up leading into Christmas. We've got a couple special guests from actually around Australia that people that have started to follow the podcast, and we're gonna introduce them to the whole fan base, but trying to stay on top of this YouTube thing, which is becoming increasingly difficult. They still don't like me very much, but I'm going to keep pestering them and see how we turn out. But we've got what have we got this week? We've got Anchorman coming, and then after that we're going to do Gladiator because Gladiator 2 is being released. Which are you guys excited for Gladiator 2? I am.
Yeah, the trailers look really cool.
It's getting pretty good feedback so far. So very rarely do we do sort of movies when, say, for instance, we wouldn't do Gladiator when Gladiator 2 is coming out. So this is something new for us. So we're just going to test the water and see whether a little bit of interest in Gladiator 2 will generate a bit more interest in the Gladiator episode. But looking forward to revisiting that. But, Born to Watch, come and join us along. We don't take ourselves or the movies too seriously.
That's right. And yes, Born to Watch is a podcast that can be found on all the
major
podcast directories.
Thank you, Jeff. I forgot to say that. I got on a tangent. You can find us on Spotify and Apple and wherever you find your podcast, we will be there.
Born to Watch is very consumable in podcast form.
Very. And if you prefer not looking at people's faces, which with the four of us, we do have heads for radio and podcasting.
I enjoy you guys through podcast format personally, but that's just me.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that.
All right. Yeah. In my opinion, I think Matt has a face for YouTube. I think that, that great Aussie face is perfect for the YouTube. So definitely watch the videos, people. Don't go to the podcast, go to the videos.
Thank you, Cyber. And mate, I appreciate it. I was listening to you on the middle-aged movie podcast on the Halloween episode, which was very good. Well done. I didn't realize. I knew you were on, but I didn't realize, and I clicked on the episode, and they go, and joining us is Cyber. I was like, how good's this? So.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, it's fun to go over there. They're actually going to be doing a holiday special, a couple holiday episodes this year, so we'll be doing those. So that'll be fun.
Lovely.
Anyways, if you enjoy me as a moderator or on the panel here, guys, you can check out my solo content. You can find me under Cyberneticshark, all one word, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, X, Patreon, pretty much any of those places. I can see my most recent review there is Smile 2. Just got that up today. And it's really actually a really fantastic film. Really enjoyable. I thought it was a solid sequel. I actually liked it better than the first one. Simply the fact that I thought that the main actress, I liked her better than Sosie Bacon. So I think that this actress, Naomi Scott, did a way better job than Sosie did. So I was really impressed with this sequel. If you haven't seen that, definitely check out that review there, guys. You can check out my review of Joker Folie et Doigt, which is the sequel to the first Joker. That was very fun to do that review. Simply the fact that this is probably going to be weird for a lot of people, but I actually enjoyed the whole courtroom drama in this film. The musical part was the most stupidest fucking thing ever, but I absolutely loved all the courtroom drama in this film. I thought that was really fun. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, check out my review, see what you think about it, see if you want to check it out. It is still in theaters, I think. At this point, I mean, I'm sure I'm really shocked Warner Brothers hasn't pulled it at how poorly it's performing. But yeah, it definitely had some highlights to it. Not the greatest film, but had some highlights. And of course, my most recent mini reviews are the films Flipper and Galaxy Quest. We'll be having some more shorts up for you guys shortly. I did just watch this great horror film that was put on Hulu called Mr. Crockett. I'll be doing a mini review of that and hopefully a full-length review of that eventually. But that was a really great new horror film. If you have not seen it, it's on Hulu. Check it out. But as always, people, if you enjoy it on there, definitely don't forget to hit that subscribe button and keep on watching. More new stuff coming for you guys soon. Some more trailers, some more reviews for you guys, and just keep an eye out.
There you go. And thanks to everybody out there that supports the MCU'S Bleeding Edge 2 channel podcast. We're in podcast format, so enjoy us. Hopefully, check us out on the podcast. We're on all the major directories, and I'll be back with Cyber for the finale of The Penguin on Monday. It was good to see you, Matthew. Hats off to Border Watch, and God bless everybody. We're out. We'll see you later. Peace.